asked to appear before this body to answer questions relative to Article 10 of House Resolution 17-111. Article 10 is an allegation of neglect of the governor to remove the former Attorney General relevant to the meet and greet incident. Mr. Ernest, would you kindly raise your right hand so I can put you under oath? You can sit down. You can sit down, sir. Just raise your right hand. That's good enough for us here. Sir, do you swear or affirm, under penalty of law, that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth?
I do.
Thank you. For the record, sir, could you state your name, your title, and the agency or company that you represent?
My name is Michael L. Ernest, E-R-N-E-S-T, and I am a private attorney, and I believe I've been subpoenaed in my private capacity. I represent myself today.
Thank you, Mr. Ernest. The individual or the member that asked that you be present today is not here right now. So he was the person I was expecting to ask you the questions, but since he's not here, other members may also ask questions. Maybe let me start. Are you aware of the hosting, the meet and greet incident? We'll just call it the meet and greet incident that occurred at the governor's residence on or about December of 2010. No, I'm sorry. Prior to that, I believe it was I don't have the exact date when that hosting occurred, but it
August 2010, Chairman?
just a moment, I can get back. Right about that time, yes.
Yes, I'm generally aware of it.
I think it was supposed to be September 27th at the governor's house, but hosted by the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General and the Attorney General's office. Mr. Buckingham, at about September 2010, where were you employed?
I was an Assistant Attorney General with the Office of the Attorney General. In 2010, in the summer, I was promoted to Chief Prosecutor. My office was in Susupi, and I oversaw the attorneys and nominally the staff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just an interjection.
Representative Deb.
I hear you mention Mr. Buckingham addressing the witness, Mr. Ernest.
My apologies.
That's all right.
Can I call you Mike?
Please do.
All right, I'm sorry, just so I won't confuse it. Mike, thank you again. Mike, can you maybe start by just providing the members here with your recollection of the how you became aware of this hosting, or when, and what do you recall?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Prior to the event, I believe the first contact I had with the topic was the Attorney General asked me And I believe it would have been the other civil chief, and I don't know, I believe that would have been Mr. Lockaby at the time. We had weekly meetings of just the chiefs and the Attorney General. And the Attorney General had asked if we thought it was a good idea to have a sort of a meet and greet with the attorneys and the governor. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. We had a lot of new attorneys on the island, and I supported that idea wholeheartedly. It was just in the talking stage. As it was expressed to me, I believe the Attorney General had said that it started that the governor invited him and Mrs. Buckingham to maybe have a dinner, and I don't know whose idea it was to include the other attorneys, but either it was the Attorney General's idea or the governor's idea. I don't recall who. And then the Attorney General in a meeting asked Mr. I believe it was Mr. Lockaby and me, I know I was there, what we thought about it. And there was no objection. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was a good idea for many reasons that I can recall now. We had a lot of new attorneys, young attorneys. I thought they would be impressed to meet the governor. The governor's house is wonderful, nice view. I thought that would go a long way to helping build some camaraderie with the office. And also, I believed, I knew that there was going to be some, I don't know if I just foresaw a budget issue, but I just knew that it was good to have the governor on the Attorney General's side. So if he wanted the attorneys at his house, I was more than happy to go. I was looking forward to it myself. Sometime subsequent to that, there were some emails that were sent around that, well, I believe also in one of the meetings, the Attorney General had mentioned that one of the candidates would be stopping by, and I had a little bit of cause for concern then, because I thought that it was just an attorney's meeting the governor thing. I didn't know it was a political thing. But then when the emails went out, it seemed to be less focused on the attorneys meeting attorneys and staff meeting the governor. And I don't recall the exact wording of the emails, but it was sort of this is now let's show support to a candidate. And I had concerns about that. Other attorneys in the office had some concerns about that. Some of them thought it was inappropriate. I believe I told the attorneys that they didn't have to go, that they weren't expected to go, and that the day of I sent around an email just to make sure everyone knew that I was serious when I said previously that they weren't expected to go and that they didn't have to go. And then the night before the event, we were having an attorney get-together at a bar restaurant in Garapan, and I started receiving texts from reporters asking if I was going to go to the political gathering tomorrow, and I really knew that something was going to be an issue then. The day of the event, I went early to the governor's house. I believe it was either right when it started or prior to the starting. I know that they didn't have the food unpacked yet, and I spoke with the Attorney General. Told him I wasn't going to stick around very long. I met the governor, shook his hand, said that I wasn't going to stay very long because I was not feeling well from the night before, and then I left. I don't know if it was on the way in or on the way out. There was an officer there, right? Asked my name and my license plate. I was a little concerned about that because I had been to the governor's house before, and I don't recall that ever happening before. In fact, it was on the way in because I know I discussed this with the Attorney General while I was there. I asked the officer why he was taking my name down, and he wouldn't give me a reason, so I asked him to take me off the list. I thought it was a supporters list or a political thing, and he didn't. As far as I know, I don't know if my name was on the list or not. But then I left. I wasn't there for any of the food. I wasn't there for any of the speeches. I've seen press reports of it afterward. I guess there's some video of the event, but I wasn't there for that. And so that's about what happened to the best of my present recollection.
Thank you, Mike. And your statement seems to confirm what we already know based on an investigation that was done by the Office of the Public Auditor. The several relevant points that it was when you arrived that you were asked for your name.
Yes, thank you.
Going back to, first of all, are you aware that there was a report or investigation and a report done by the Office of the Public Auditor relevant to this issue?
Yes, I am aware of that.
Have you ever reviewed the report?
I believe I received the report on behalf of the Attorney General when it was transmitted from the Public Auditor. I believe the Attorney General was off island at the time. I believe I was acting Attorney General at the time. And so I believe I've read it. I believe I was the one who received it officially. I mean, I think the staff stamped it received, but it was delivered to me. I placed it in Attorney General Buckingham's office. I am aware of the report, sir.
Thank you, Mike. Would any of the members want to ask questions? Representative De La Cruz.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Representative.
And thank you for joining us this morning. Mike, prior to the August 28th gathering, which was on a Saturday, did you ever receive an email? I guess it's a mass email from the executive assistant to the Attorney General.
Is that Ms. Demapon? Mrs. Demapon, for you?
I believe so.
I believe I received that, yes.
Did you ever receive an email, and let me read it out to you so it's clear what this email is saying. Good morning to you all. I am taking this upon myself to inform you all that our Attorney General, Edward T. Buckingham, and the Office of the Attorney General as a whole will be hosting a gathering for Joe Camacho on Saturday, August 28, 2010, starting at 4:30 p.m. at the Governor's house. As our AG has said, this gathering is not mandatory, but it would be nice to see our attorneys and staff come and enjoy the food, drinks, and view, and be able to socialize with other people throughout the night while this gathering is ongoing. Did you ever receive this particular email?
I believe I did, yes.
What did you think when you got the and what was this on company time when this email was mass sent? Do you recall?
I don't recall. I would need to check on it. I remember I was concerned that it was done either on company time or with government computers. But mostly I was concerned that it was turning what I thought was a non-political meeting for the office with the governor into something that I didn't think that was not my understanding of what the event was supposed to be.
Okay. And so you thought it was just a gathering of new attorneys and present attorneys to get together to meet with the governor and so forth, and you didn't expect that it'd be somewhat of a public support for a candidate.
I remember being surprised about the extent that what was stated in the email. Again, when this started, it was expressed to me that this started between the Attorney General and his wife and the governor and his wife, and that it was just supposed to be the four of them, and then that morphed into all of us. And I do recall hearing before that email that perhaps a candidate would be invited to speak. And again, I thought that was somewhat problematic, but not too big of a cause for concern. But that the sentiment that was expressed in that email gave me concern, because that was not my understanding of what the day was supposed to be. I did feel that email could be problematic in terms of certain campaign or ethics laws in the Commonwealth.
During your meetings with the former Attorney General, you stated earlier you usually have meetings with the chiefs of the divisions and so forth, Mr. Lockaby and the Attorney General.
Yes, sir.
When this issue was brought up with regards to having a gathering, not necessarily a gathering to support a candidate, how would you describe Mr. Buckingham? Was he joyful? Was he, just normal as usual in bringing this matter out, or was he unsure?
I don't believe I can recall. Nothing strikes me as odd. Mm-hmm. Again, I think that we knew that there was going to be a budget issue coming up. We knew that there might be a shutdown coming. Again, this was the first time that I believe this was the first time when the budget amendment to the Constitution required a shutdown. The former Attorney General is certainly not. I mean, he can be smart sometimes, and I think he had the foresight to know that it would be good to introduce the attorneys to the governor, certainly in light of what we all thought was coming as a government shutdown.
After this email that I just read out came out, and you were made aware of it, and others were also made aware of it, did you and the other chiefs have another meeting with regards to this event that was supposedly coming up on August 28th?
I don't believe I had a meeting with the other chief. I don't believe I had a meeting with Attorney Hasselscheer, who was our elections attorney. I do recall having a meeting with the attorneys, the Assistant Attorneys General in Susupi, the prosecutors. We would try to have weekly meetings. And I do know the issue came up. I do know that at least two attorneys expressed reservations about this, that they didn't feel that they should be there. One attorney had a case against a defendant who was represented by the candidate, and so he felt he shouldn't be anywhere near the candidate. And I expressed to them that this wasn't mandatory, that this wasn't anything other than, my understanding was that it was supposed to be us meeting the governor. After I saw those emails, I certainly felt that it was problematic. I tried to express to the attorneys that it was not required, that they would not have any negative, no impact on them whatsoever if they wanted to attend or not. I remembered thinking, how do I do this? Because I felt that I couldn't say you can't go now, because that's just as bad as saying you must go. And so it was very difficult. I remember being somewhat perplexed as to what to do. And so I just try to do my best and say, you can go if you want, but you don't have to go. And I honestly believe that none of the attorneys who went felt compelled to go. I think that if they went, they chose to go. And like I said, the governor's house is very nice. It's free food. And
I'll yield for now. Thank you, Mike.
thank you, sir.
Other members? Rep. Torres?
Thank you, Chair. Mike, morning.
Sir?
You stated earlier that you and several attorneys met the night before discussing about the planned gathering at the governor's house. And during that gathering, you received texts from the reporter or somebody?
Sir, we met the night before, but it wasn't about, if I gave that impression, it was not meant to be that. We had met before trying to get the civil attorneys and the criminal attorneys to get together. When I was first hired as chief, there had been a great deal of turnover in the office of the Attorney General. A lot of prosecutors were leaving.
But what my question is there gathering discussing about the planned political gathering at the governor's house?
I don't recall we were necessarily discussing that. I think we were at Bobby Cadillac's having beer and pizza, just meeting the civil attorneys and the prosecutors. We may have discussed it, but I don't think that certainly was not the focus of the meeting.
But the texting during that night?
Yeah, I received one or two texts from the press asking if I was going to go to the political gathering tomorrow, which would have been the Saturday. And that's when I knew that this was going to be a very big public thing.
You know it is, or you suspect that it is a political gathering, but you went anyway. Is it to prove that it is a real political function? And then you went to the governor's house for a while. How long did you stay in the governor's house?
I can't recall exactly. I believe it was probably less than 15 minutes.
Now, then you left right away. According to the report, findings that when you leaving the house of the governor, you asked the security guard or a police officer standing for security that your name be redacted or removed from the log sheet, visitor's log sheet.
I didn't know it was the visitor's log sheet. Looking back now, I believe it kind of makes sense that people would be writing down who's going to the governor's house. But as I had said, I had gone to the governor's house 2 or 3 times prior, and I had never been asked my name or license plate. I don't know if they wrote it down or not, but I had certainly never been approached. And so I had assumed that it was some sort of a supporters list, and I certainly did not want to be on that in light of the recent events.
Reading that you asked the security to remove your name from that. Doesn't that make you suspect just to being a spy for that gathering?
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
State your point.
Mr. Chair, I believe that Mr. Ernest had answered or rather stated why he wanted his name checked off the list, and Rep. Torres was not present at the time. But just to clarify, as Mr. Ernest was leaving, he was approached by a police officer. Is that right, Mr. Ernest?
I believe it's a police officer.
And he was asking for his name and his license plate on his car.
Clarification.
Now, if this information is for gathering of who was present, or whether there's going to be a raffle afterwards, which I don't believe. I think that Mr. Ernest has pretty much clarified why he wanted his name stricken off the list. Mr. Ernest didn't think there's going to be a raffle drawing later based on his license plate and his name.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just to clarify, I did clarify it with the witness earlier that it was when he arrived. It was when he arrived, and your recollection confirmed that. And let me just read it so there's no ambiguity. Jay Norita, who is I think the police officer. Was it a police officer? Was he in uniform?
I believe he was in uniform, yes.
Okay. Jay Norita stated that he had a conversation with a guest named Mike Ernest at the governor's house. Jay Norita stated that when Mike Ernest arrived at the governor's house, Mr. Norita asked him what his name was, and Mike Ernest replied, "For what?" Jay Norita stated that Mike Ernest did not stay at the governor's house for a long time. Jay Norita stated that before Mike Ernest left the governor's house, Mike Ernest asked Jay Norita if he could erase his name from the log sheet. So he was asked when he arrived, you responded, "For what?" Perhaps at that time, I think you stated you were not clear. When you were leaving, you asked that it be removed because it does appear that it was a political function, and that you thought that the log of names is really a checklist of supporters who attended. So that's why you asked to be removed. I think you had responded, Mike, why you felt that you needed your name to be removed. But just for clarity, can you again tell us why you felt you didn't want your name on that list?
Yes, sir. I thought it was a supporters list for the election, and the Office of the Attorney General is usually asked to help oversee and monitor elections, and we are in charge with enforcing the election laws. And for the committee's information, because of this, the Attorney General recused himself from the oversight of the election. He appointed Ms. Hasselshire, the AG, to oversee the election. And also because of this, I did not vote in the election. I registered, I went, and I voted for the initiatives. But because I knew that I would be called to question either in court or here, because of this issue, I gave up my right to vote for you gentlemen or ladies, or for my elected representatives.
And what precinct are you from?
Precinct 3. I do intend to vote this time.
Thank you, Mike.
And Representative Torres, if I could, I don't know what I would be spying for. It's very well known that my wife is friends with the governor. I worked as hard as I could to get him elected. I worked as hard as I could to get him re-elected. In 2010, I don't think you would have found more of a supporter of the governor than me. Again, I just didn't feel, I asked the officer why he wanted my name, and if he would have said this is a simple sheet, we're tracking everyone, and we always do this every day, then of course I would have no problem. But I didn't feel that I was there attending a rally. I didn't feel like I should be listed as a supporter, and I thought it was a supporters list. I do apologize if that has called my reputation into question.
Thank you, Mike. Representative Guerrero.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
Sir, fine.
I just wanted to ask. Your name on the list. That's fine. It's of no consequence.
I'm sorry. I can't. I'm a little.
No, I'm sorry. It's of no consequence to the questions I have. It's a very simple question I have. After the event took place, okay, so this is already post-event, allegations were in the newspaper and whatnot about the use of office equipment, about the AG's office and things like that. Did you ever bring that to the attention of the Attorney General?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What was his reply?
Again, I don't recall specifically. This is 2 years ago. I'm not trying to be evasive. I recall at one time I felt that some administrative action was required and that I was going to deal administratively with an employee who I felt required administrative action. And I spoke with the employee, and I came up with what I thought was an appropriate administrative response. I passed that along to the Attorney General, and he said no. He would not allow that to happen. And I believe he sent around another email supporting the employee. And from then on, I don't recall discussing this with the Attorney General anymore.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Rep. Guerrero. Any other members?
If I could just add one more thing.
Please do so.
I was looking forward to this event. I'm not going to hide from that. I thought that from the very beginning I wanted to attend to this. It wasn't until the emails started going around that changed the character of it that I thought that there were any problems whatsoever. I still don't think, and again, I'm not a specialist on this, I don't think that the gathering itself was problematic. It was just my concerns were how it was expressed and that it was expressed to the attorneys and that, or to the staff in that fashion. But yeah, I was looking forward to it, and I did want to go, and I do like the governor, certainly at the time. I was looking forward to the food and the view. It's a beautiful house.
Thank you, Mike. And if I may comment, your statement about how it began initially does seem to fit with statements from the Attorney General and the other emails here where it says, and this is a memo from the Attorney General, Mr. Buckingham, to Mr. Pai, the Public Auditor. And it states, this is to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated September 3rd, sent Friday, September 3rd, 2010 at 4:27 p.m. Please be advised that no illegal campaign activities have occurred. What did happen was, 1, a dinner at the governor's residence began as an idea for me, the governor, and our wives to have dinner at the governor's residence. That's how it started. And then it says later the idea moved to having a gathering at the governor's residence, adding members of the Attorney General, of the AGO, attorney, staff, family, and friends. Started morphing into something bigger. And third point here is that he states later still adding Joe Camacho as a guest and providing an opportunity for him to speak to the gathering. And even that may not be, as you said, problematic. I think the problem occurred through the dissemination or the invitation to the AGO staff using government equipment and during government hours. I think anybody can host, if they're doing it at their own time and making arrangements at their own time. I think that was a mistake, if you will, and that mistake fell on the shoulder of Mr. Buckingham, because he is the head of that agency. And I think the one other email in here, if you give me a second, stated that, and it was an email by missed them upon that the Attorney General and the Attorney General's office would be hosting a dinner event at the governor's office, governor's residence rather. And in that email, which was an invitation to the staff, that the Attorney General's name and the name of the office was used in the invitation. Let me just read from the report. It says, F. Dimapon stated that the Attorney General told her to invite all of the staff from the Attorney General's Office of the Attorney General to the gathering. She also stated that the Attorney General told her to tell the OAG staff that attendance was not mandatory. F. Dimapon stated that she emailed an invitation to the OAG staff at Criminal Division during working hours and on a government computer, but that she sent the email with the approval of the Attorney General. F. Dimapon stated that although she knew it was not right to email the invitation during work hours, she was just following the instructions that the Attorney General gave her. So I think that is the problematic part of this whole event. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ernest, but I think, what started out as just a friendly gathering turned into something else. But the gathering in itself wasn't the problematic part. Once you realize that it was done inappropriately, or the invitation was done inappropriately, that's when you had reservations about this whole thing. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, again, I would even go so far as to say I was a wholehearted supporter of meeting the attorneys and staff at the governor's house. I supported it. I don't fault anyone for going. That's certainly their right.
Thank you, Mr. Ernest. Any further questions or from the members? Any objections to the chair dismissing our witness? If not, Mr. Ernest, we want to thank you for appearing before this body and for your cooperation.
Thank you, sir.
You are excused.
Am I released from the subpoena?
You are excused, meaning you are no longer required to return, meaning yes.
Thank you.
Sir, have a good day.